It is with heavy heart and sadness that I notify you of Pat Ross's passing last evening. Pat was instrumental in advocating for the Department of the Mount Vernon Rescue in the late 70s. The town voted to create the Rescue Department as a branch of the Mount Vernon Fire Department and Rescue Departments. Serving as the first director of the Rescue Department, she served until her health declined in May of this year. Under her direction, she developed a strong unit that has produced some of the best medical first responders in need. She was an advocate for public safety and the health of the town of Mount Vernon for 44 years. It is a remarkable achievement. Mount Vernon is a better place because of Pat's love for and her selfless dedication to our community. A memorial gathering is scheduled for Saturday, August 19th at the community center, and as details develop of the family's wishes, we will keep everyone informed. In the meantime, please keep Pat and her family and friends in your thoughts and prayers. Pat, rest easy. We'll take the calls from here.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Dick Spencer, and I'm told I was already elected as the moderator at the opening of the town meeting on Tuesday, the 13th.
Could you hold the mic up, please, a little bit?
I usually have to go through a very tense moment to see if I'm actually going to be elected. And one of my partners once drove all the way to Aroostook County to moderate a school budget meeting, and then he lost the election. I signed an oath at the beginning of the meeting, but just for the record, I swear that I'll conduct the Mount Vernon Town meeting in accordance with the laws of Maine, and that I'll comply with the constitutions of the United States and Maine so long as I remain a citizen thereof. I believe that the first order of business at this meeting is Article 3, which I assume wasn't adopted at the original meeting. And so that is to see if the town, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
To see if the town will allow the following non-residents to speak at the town meeting in order to answer any questions or to provide any other necessary information. Town clerk Heather Wheeler and town deputy clerk Rachel Mayer. Is there a motion on Article 3? Refer to Kelly Hutchins because Heather isn't here.
No, that's Rachel.
Rachel is. So can we then vote for those two? There's no discussion. All in favor of allowing them to speak at the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That's a vote. Article 4 is to see if the town will adopt the rules of the Maine Moderator's Manual as the official rules of this meeting. Is there any discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Just as a preliminary matter, I will try to conduct the meeting according to Maine Moderator's Manual. In that regard, as we go through the articles, I'll entertain amendments to any article. But if somebody makes an amendment to an amendment, I won't entertain the amendment to the amendment. I'll ask that you vote first on the amendment, and then if the person wants to make another amendment, they'll be able to make that other amendment. But I found doing this that I'm not smart enough to keep track of amendments to amendments. And then somebody will propose an amendment to the amendment to the amendment, and then I'll really get lost. So we'll just stick with one amendment at a time. I would also ask that on each article, once you've spoken on an article, speak before you speak again on that same article. And then finally, I noticed that all of the long detailed amounts are included in the wording of each article. And it's customary in my practice to read the articles. To me, if I read all the articles, it will be here till 3 in the afternoon. And I think I see Jeff Herman making a motion to waive the detailed reading of each article.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Is there a second?
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that motion to waive the detailed reading? I'm assuming everybody has a copy of the articles, so that, no?
Page 42 in the book.
Is there anybody who doesn't have the book or a copy? Because I want to make sure that everybody knows what we're voting on.
Anybody else?
So if everyone has a copy of the article, is there any further discussion on the motion to waive the details? Excuse me? Oh, somebody else needs one. Anybody else? Is there any discussion on the motion to waive the detailed reading of each article? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. That's a vote. So moving on to Article 5, to fix the pay of the following town officers and employees as recommended below in Article 5. And that includes the tax collector, the selectman, the select chair, the GA admin, and the total under that article is $156,171.73. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded on Article 5. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd like to know the breakdown on 5.05.
There's a request for
Did you hit play or anything? Just hit play. I hit record. Okay, yeah. You might time out there. That's something I'm having trouble with. There was a tape in it too. Yeah. 2019. Not much of that. Yeah. I'm not going to worry about that because you know, that's that back. Nice to dump it all on the disc or something. Yeah, I think I started, but I haven't finished. What? You had more important things to do? Yeah. I put all my kids' tapes on video. Yeah. On my computer because I was gonna do a editing thing. My
so
computer
any further
it took me hours to do it.
have some questions and answers by the handout. Okay, speak to the mic.
I'd like to know which ones are in that category, 5.05.
Can I ask a question just before we go on? Is it customary in this meeting for people who are speaking to identify themselves? Or does everybody in Mount Vernon know each other already?
I'm Alice Counts.
Okay. And you've asked for a more detailed breakdown.
So 5.05.
Which one of this, on this sheet that we just kept in is along with 5.05?
So the warrant.
Actually, can you hear me okay? Okay, on the salary sheet, the first block, the deputy tax collector, all those are included in it. The election ballot clerks. That's it, included in that salary line. So it's all, what we have is, we have the elected officials you get to vote on. The appointed officials are the salaries up to the department heads so that they can use it as a negotiation tool.
I think the question is, what's in the 87,679?
It's the first block, first and second blocks on the salary page.
We don't have the.
That doesn't look like it adds up to 87,000.
The treasurer, the deputy administrative assistant. Those are the non-elected.
The total amount on this tax, is that for the last year?
Yes.
Has the question been answered?
No.
Doug Stevens, Mount Vernon. No, the question hasn't been answered. So $87,000, does that, it only includes the tax collector, the Heather and her wardens. It doesn't include the people we pay for the lawn mowing. It doesn't include the people we pay for the cleaning. It doesn't include all of those people, because if they're left out and everybody else is getting raised, that's kind of shoddy.
Okay, the 87,000 is the admin assistant, the treasurer, and then the FICA and the election people. Those are the 87,000. And the deputy, because the deputy is not elected. On down, the salary for mowing and the salary for building cleaning are in other articles down below, and they are getting a raise.
Further discussion on Article 5? Yes, sir.
Just a question, that we see percentages next to line items in a number of places. Did somebody explain those percentages?
That was just a percentage of the increase.
From last year.
Or decrease.
It's negative, it's decrease?
Yes, and the admin budget did decrease because we had some extra, put extra in last year to cover increased paper costs, etc. So the admin budget actually did go down.
We also reduced hours.
Further discussion on Article 5? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Article 5 is approved. Before we move on to the next articles, I understand that there's a request to explain the impact of what's known in the trade is LD1, which is a law that sets a tax levy limit and requires a vote of the town meeting in order to exceed the tax levy limit. So do you want to address that?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure, LD1 was voted in 2005, and it takes a whole bunch of things into consideration, including personal income growth and the growth in valuations. Sorry, is that better? Okay, I remember, my hands are shaking, so I gotta remember to have the mic here. So LD1 takes that calculation, and every year it comes up with a levy limit. If what we're voting for just the municipal part of this warrant takes us above that limit, at the end, you get to vote that you accept the fact that we have to raise and go above the levy limit. If we vote all these articles through and do not pass that levy limit increase, the budget is not valid. We've got to go back to ground zero. So LD1, as it stands right now, the levy limit will need to be increased by $152,798. And I will keep track as we go through. That's not a bad thing, it's just to make sure that everybody's informed that it could possibly go up. And that at the end, we do have to authorize that if we vote everything on the ballot. Okay?
Yeah, and under LD1, the town has authority to override the levy limit, but it has to do it by a vote, by a written ballot at the meeting, which means that you can't vote by voice vote or show of hands. It actually have to write yes or no on a piece of paper. So when we get to that article, we'll have to hand out, well, maybe they've already been handed out, ballots. So moving on to Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for general government. And then there's a long list under Article 6, going all the way down to 6.17. Is there a motion on Article 6?
Second.
Been moved and seconded on Article 6, general government. The total is $395,579.93. Is there any discussion on Article 6? Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Chaplin here. I would like to know on Article 606, why it costs $30,000 almost to mow the lawn. Can I repeat what you said?
As long as the mic's
So the question is, why does it cost so much to mow the lawn?
Yes, 606.
606. 606 is mowing the cemeteries and mowing the municipal lawns. The library, the town hall, the lot in the village, and all the cemeteries.
Question?
As far as I can tell, I should apply for this job because this would be Charlie Leader, I assume, working 5 months a year, mowing a lawn as part of a bit of a mine for $30,000? Something wrong with this figure, and I'd like to have you explain it now.
How many cemeteries are there?
Well, there's not that many.
There's a hand in the back. Yes, sir.
Chris Tibbetts, I did landscaping for 15 years. It's not just mowing, just so everybody knows. Every individual stone is trimmed around, the stuff is removed, raking, repairing around the area so you can mow. It's not just taking a lawnmower out there and running back and forth. They're, blowing the leaves off, making sure that it looks good for our resting relatives. So.
Yes, sir.
Doug Stevens again. My question is on the raise of the amount. It looks like it's a $166,000 increase. And I'm wondering if that most of this budget is going towards our fire department at a $142,000 increase this year. I'd like to know if somebody could speak to me about that and what that's going to include. And does that include the $52,000 they want for the heating system?
Can I ask a question? Is your question related to Article 6?
Yes.
No, I don't know if Barbara's question got answered yet. The 6.6 is municipal lawns. In the spring, we rake all the lawns. That's quite a job right there. And we mow all the lawns. Now, we've got at least 20 lots on cemeteries that we mow and rake. And we have 5 municipal lawns that we rake and mow. And Doug's question, there's nothing in this Article 6 that has to do with the fire department.
It's the LD1. The LD1 is the total increase, correct?
Yeah, but we'll get the LD1 under the LD1 article. I don't think it's in order to ask that question.
So on Article 6, at the very beginning, it says
$395,000 is the increase. $228,788 last year.
No.
That's the total. That's the
395 is the total amount. And there's, at least as I read the article, it looks as if there are decreases rather than increases mostly. So I don't think, at least it doesn't seem to me that the question about Article 1 is in order under this article, unless what you're asking is, does this article,
does it include
all of the increase that will be necessary under LD1? That's what he's asking. He's asking is the increase that will put the town over the LD1 tax levy limit entirely included in the general government total of 395, 579.93. In other words, I guess the question really is this a $165,000 increase over last year? Is that another way of saying it? Correct.
Yeah, the biggest increase in this Article 6, planning board, we put some money in for being able to record the minutes. And we put money in for the appeals board, which never had money there. And we added some money in for office equipment, which wasn't very much. So no, we didn't.
$166,000 budget. That's my question.
Article 6.
It went down actually.
I think if you look at each line item, you'll see that most of them seem to have been a minus. The ones that have gone up are like the appeals board, which went up 100%, but only went up to $500. If it wasn't, apparently, there must have been $250 in the budget last year. So I think the answer to the question is that the increase that's causing the budget to go above LD1 is not primarily caused by this article. Is that a fair statement?
And then the second part of that question was,
What is the cause of it going up that high?
is it the fire department?
I think since we've raised the article, the LD1 question at the beginning of the meeting, I think it is appropriate for somebody to answer where the biggest increases are, so that as we go through the meeting, if somebody wants to cut those articles, or propose an amendment to cut those articles, they'll be able to do that. So, although we're still discussing Article 6, I think I will allow the question as to where the major increases are in the budget over the prior year.
The fire department would be about 40, between 40 and $50,000 increase. The amount of money received, in Article 17, those monies received is down by quite a bit. 600 something. That's down by 50,000.
Percentages alongside that show where the increases and the decreases.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at. Another big increase was winter salt and sand.
So were those the major increases?
Those were major.
Yes, sir.
So I have a copy of the budget in my hand, and it says on 8.01, fire and rescue operations, last year was $42,011.29. This year, they're asking for $182,593.45.
That's because rescue went up.
But it shows that everything on rescue went down. This is in my review.
So is there somebody else who wanted to speak on this? I heard.
Let me get there. Yeah, I said that.
I'm
fire.
We're still on 6, so I really think we should just move on to 6. And not worry about what's on 8 till we get to 8.
Well, I did say that since the LD1 issue is hanging over the meeting, then I think at least it would be fair for the meeting to know which articles have the biggest increases. So I think we should allow this.
Yeah, can you explain that second, that question?
Could you repeat your point about the fire and rescue and the?
Well, I've got a copy of the budget here in my hand that says that the fire and rescue operation went from 42,000 to 182,593. I'm wondering if that $140,000 is part of that LD1, the increase, because it doesn't show the increase in the section 6. That's what I'm saying, the figures don't add up there it shows it as a loss, you're right, it does show it going down, I totally agree with you on that. But you're asking for an increase of $166,000.
I think, Doug, I think I see the line you're looking at, but correct me if I'm wrong here. So 801, under the fire and rescue operation is at 182 this year. It was at 142 last year, so up about 40K.
So it was
Does that
misprint.
It must be a typo in the budget that you're looking at.
That has to put a typo.
It sounds like, and that is under Article 8. So I think we've answered the general question, and that is.
But I'd still like to know why it's $166,000.
No, we'll get to that.
Based on 6.
We'll get to that under, well, it's not in Article 6, it's in Article 8. It's the first line under Article 8, fire and rescue operations and fire department. So let's go back to Article 6. Is there any further discussion on Article 6?
Kathy Smith. I'd like to know what the $5,000 increase on the total municipal building works is. What do we need $5,000 more for that?
605.
It's mostly utility costs, and a small increase in cleaning.
So just to be clear, and I'm trying to read this along with all of you, I don't think that's a $5,000 increase. I think that's a $5,000 expenditure, and it looks as if that's a 31% increase over the prior year. So it must have been about 69% of 5,000
It's 22
last year.
So it's about 5,000 increase.
So if you're looking at just 6.05, that would be a total of $5,000.
604 is 5,000. 605 is 100.
Oh, I'm sorry, 605. 5,000 is the contingency fund.
But I think Harry and my question is.
I couldn't hear you.
I said, I heard it.
She said it was mostly utility.
Okay. Question over here.
When you say carry utility costs, does that include the cost of heating fuel?
It's, telephone, heating, and electric, or the heat pumps are electric, and, we use oils, propane. For a generator and, heating costs are oil.
So have you actually done the due diligence to find a better price on propane for this coming year?
We are looking at different alternatives to partner with RSU, and that's going to work.
Can people hear?
No. Pick up the
Can you bring the
microphone.
mic over?
Sorry about that. Up and down is getting difficult. We do need to look at different oil and propane costs, is the bottom line. And we will be doing that.
If you were able to reduce the cost, then those funds would not be expended under this fund.
And they would go back into general.
Further discussion on Article 6. Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing? This is Jonathan Raylo. I'm curious of the planning board's 240% increase. What's that going towards?
We want to buy, the selectmen use what we call an owl. We want to buy an owl for the planning board so it can be recorded.
That's 1,700 for one of those.
No, that's 1,100. And then the rest would be used for, yeah, training and stuff like that.
Further discussion on Article 6. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Article 6, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Article 6 is approved. Article 7, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal building capital improvement, $3,000. Article 7. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Article 7 is approved. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for protection and health. Recommended total $558,674.47, broken down according to all of the lines between 8.1 and 8.23. Is there a motion on Article 8? So moved. It's been moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Wait for the mic.
Thank you, Dave, 403 Point Drive. Just questions. Vehicle maintenance, station maintenance, is that fire?
Fire rescue.
Fire rescue, okay. What is water hole maintenance and development?
We have, Jason, how many water holes?
There's
I can list them off for you. You got one, here, by the, Old Longfellows Hall.
Wait for the mic, hold on.
Jason Beckler, Fire Chief. So I'll list them off for you because I don't have the exact count in my head, but West Mount Vernon at the chimney, we have a water hole there. We have one as you come into the village, before you just enter the village coming down Pond Road. Then there's another one at the bridge, as you come by the Sanders. Then there's one behind the store. There's also one in the village by the beach. Then as you go up Belgrade Road, we discontinued one at near the old Lover's Lane, but there's one at the Stevens residence. Then there's one over at the off of the Old Rome Road, and then there is down on Bean Road we have one. Then out towards we have one at the Jacobs Farm. And then we have one at, on Dunn's Corner Road, and then one also on Bartlett.
Are these dry hydrants or are
Yeah, we have no pressurized hydrants in Mount Vernon.
The other question I have is what's PSAP?
PSAP.
What is it?
So it's the, basically your dispatch services. Currently from Somerset County, that's changed.
The PSAP is our, when you make your E91, your 911 call, it goes into, right now, it goes into Somerset dispatch, and then it goes into Winthrop, and it's dispatched into town. Winthrop notified us 4 months ago, or 5 months ago, that they would not be carrying most of Kennebec County. So we switched to Androscoggin County. And there was quite a bit of a difference in price. We didn't have much.
What does PSAP?
Public safety answering points.
Yeah, thank you.
Public safety answering point. Yes, sir, in the back.
Joe, I just got a quick question. Last few years, rescue department has had a vehicle maintenance line that I don't see here. Is that being picked up in the vehicle maintenance for the fire department?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The answer was yes. Further discussion on Article 8. Yes, sir.
I would like to know 8.23 on the increase on the transfer station, please.
Question as to why is there a 7% increase on the transfer station?
Most of the increase comes from our waste. The waste and recycling basically is, there's no savings. What you put in the waste and what you put into the recycling bin costs us about the same right now. One of the reasons for that is our recycling bin gets contaminated. People put in items that are not supposed to be in there. And when it gets dumped, the people at the recycling center they have to go through it. And if it has contaminants in it, like plastics that shouldn't be in there, then they charge us a fee. So that increases our costs. Also, utility costs are up, a little bit more on the salaries are up. And that's about it.
Further discussion on Article 8. Yes,
I
ma'am.
just want to ask a question again. On the dispatch for Winthrop, does that go away since Winthrop said they didn't want to work with us anymore? Does that 58,
No.
50 go away because Winthrop isn't going to be a point for us?
Okay, no, you misunderstood. Our phone call, when you make that call, it will go into Androscoggin. They in turn call Winthrop, and then we get dispatched from Winthrop. That will say, Winthrop always dispatch the town.
Bob, you misspoke, you said Winthrop when you meant Somerset
Oh.
versus Androscoggin.
Okay, that's what
Further discussion on Article 8. You never know whether to say I didn't hear any or see any. Not seeing any, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Article 8, as written, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. Article, I think the ayes have it. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate revenue from the Article 9 is approved. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate for road maintenance the following sums for the Long Pond watershed to be matched 100% with a Clean Water Action Section 319 grant to reduce erosion, to improve water quality, to include, for example, South Taylor Road and Cottle Hill Road, total to be raised $45,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded on Article 9 to raise and appropriate $45,000. Discussion, yes, ma'am.
Owner Fast, where is this money coming from? When it says raise, does that translate into a tax increase in order to cover that? Where's that money coming from?
Go ahead.
Okay, what we did on the next article also, the 45,000 and the 12,500, we reduced the figure on 13.3 by those two figures. What it is, we received a 100% grant from the Clear Water Act. So it's a 100% match. The 45,000 will be matched with 45,000. So we're gonna get 45,000 for that, and we're gonna get 12,500 for the next article.
So can I ask a question then under Article 10? Will you actually be spending $90,000 under this Article 10 because you have a $45,000 match?
Yes.
So you're raising from taxes $45,000, and then you're getting an additional $45,000 under the Clean Water Act.
Yes.
Is that correct? Further discussion on Article 10. Seeing none, call for vote. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to know if we already have the grant or do we need to apply for it?
So can I ask another question? Do you need to appropriate the additional $45,000?
In Article 19.
Well, it's elsewhere in the budget. Okay. Further discussion on Article 10. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to ask, what's going to be done though with the thing? What's the improvements?
would say, Lee here. Mostly on Cotton Hill Road, both sides, are gonna be worked on, ditching, surface, and on Article 11, it's gonna be on the Missalonsky side. Both these sections have been identified what has to be done to be fixed. So I think rightly, he's been shown what needs to be done in these sections.
Further discussion on Article 10. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Article 10 is approved. Article 11, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate for road maintenance the following sum for the Messalonsky watershed to be matched 100% with the Clean Water Act, Section 319 grant, to reduce erosion and improve water quality, to include, for example, Spring Hill Road and Cottle Hill Road, total to be raised $12,500. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Article 11 is approved. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate up to $31,000 of federal ARPA funds for road maintenance brush account. No taxpayer money will be raised or monies appropriated from tax revenue. So these are federal COVID relief funds. Is there a motion on Article 12?
Second.
On road removal and all that other such, when we should be using this to repair the bridge that is in desperate need. Even if it's just to patch that bridge, I mean, there's holes in that that'll swallow a tire. So I think we need to really think about this one.
Was that a question?
I can address that today. Blake Hill Bridge, that's what's going to.
Sir, could you identify yourself?
Lee Dunn, Road Commissioner. He's asking about repairing the Blake Hill Bridge. We don't own it, the state does. They won't allow us to do anything with it.
Further discussion on Article 12? Yes, sir. In the back.
Very silly, maybe Leo told me this, when you're cutting back the roads, you're cutting them back to the property line for the maintenance.
Cut them back to the town right away.
Because what do you do with the lumber, wood that comes off? You donate that to.
When he answers the question,
When we cut the wood off, we try to offer it to the homeowners. If they don't want it, we just try to haul it off and it's out of the way.
I would just like to see that go to the needy. We got families to need all it. It is, would be honest, it would be nice if we pile the dump and people could use it.
yes, ma'am.
After this 31,000, oh, this is Alex Gallons. After this 31,000 is taken out of ARPA, how much do we have left in ARPA?
I think that wipes it out. It might be a few thousand, but I'm not sure. I think it wipes it out.
It kind of has to be right, because it has to be used by the end of next year.
Question, do the ARPA funds have to be used by the end of this year?
Next year.
I think it's 2026 or.
24, I think. I think it's the end of 24. Sorry, Lucas, wrong one.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Further discussion on Article 12? Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, Tom Jacobs, question from me mainly, I guess. Why does the state own the bridge when it's on town road?
Great question.
I think Bob can explain that to you.
I think that was a question directed to you. It didn't sound like a question.
We could be here all day on that one. Several years ago, the state tried to turn all bridges over to towns. And then all of a sudden they turned around and took them back. And now I'm not sure what they're trying to do, but it's really hard to figure out. We got a letter just about a week or two ago about the bridge on Cottle Hill Road that just said you turn onto it, complaining about some of the items on it, which when we got an engineer out, they said it was fine. But that's a town bridge, we fixed it, we made it fine, but I don't know why it's hard to tell what they're up to. We still don't know on the Lake Hill Bridge whether or not they're gonna do it at $2.5 million, or we're gonna do it at $700,000. We still don't know. It's on their schedule, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say that contradicts what we were told, because we were told it was gonna be replaced between the end of 2024 and the end of 2025. So, are we fixing this bridge? I think the question needs to be posed to the state. If you're gonna get rid of it, get rid of it, and we'll put up our own bridge, because this is absolutely ludicrous. The road's impassable. And we still have trucks driving over that thing constantly that are over 10,000 pounds.
Further discussion on Article 12? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 12 is approved. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for public works and highways. Total is, he proposed is $886,100, broken down in 9 lines below. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded on Article 13. Is there any discussion? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Alice counts. But somebody mentioned that Article 10 and 11 was coming out of 13. Where is it coming out?
13.3 originally was, it's 109,000. If you add the 45 and the 12,000 to 109, that would have been the original figure. We reduced it to 109 because of Article 10 and 11.
I think there was a gentleman over here. Yes, yes, ma'am. I'll get to you, sir.
I want to fast again. Can someone explain to me what a FICA Medicare roads are?
Those are roads that get Social Security.
I think that one, because that one's real straightforward. When we pay the road commissioner and everybody else working on the roads, we have to match the Social Security and Medicare, which is the FICA Medicare match on all the salary bills. We have to cover that. So roads, because we end up switching, it's hard to tell based on weather what roads are going to wash out, what needs construction versus maintenance versus culverts. Instead of trying to do FICA and salaries, instead of trying to do FICA for each individual thing. We just do a lump sum of FICA to cover all the road, maintenance, construction, and culverts. All the road salary.
In the back.
So the answer we got on 13.3 from the 11 and 10 was, it was originally $52,500 more. If probably my math is mistaken on that. 57,000, okay. So last year that number was 120,000, so that increased by, so it's not, those numbers don't match up from what I'm seeing.
What you're saying is that.
So I have last year's numbers.
Versus this year's numbers. And I'd like to know what the actual increase was to make it a decrease down to 109 from 120. So that's only $11,000. That's not $57,500.
Well, I think you're saying the way they're showing it, it went from 120,000 last year or something like that down to 109. If you added in the 57.5, which isn't coming from taxes, that would be an increase under that line, but that was already approved up above. But your point is that the total expenditures for road maintenance and bush hogging, I guess, is going up to 109 plus 57.5, which is 164.5 from 120 something. So there's a $40,000 increase in that, on that.
The asphalt, cost of asphalt, cost of culverts, everything has gone up astronomically. So there was a planned increase, but then we took some of the money out of the road maintenance because it would be covered by work done in the.
But 1309 is bridge and culvert. Road construction is 1304. I mean, you specifically said this money came out of 1303, not 1304, 1305. I'd just like to know, are we being shown an inflated price? Because we're gonna drive ourselves out of existence if we keep spending like this.
The road construction, estimate, and this always depends, for me, it's very frustrating because as treasurer, it's like, which is this, construction, culvert, whatever, and it's all based on what damages. We may be planning to do one section of road and all of a sudden the road washes out from one of these storms we had. So those three lines kind of get fluxed back and forth because we just have to fix things washing out. And we took it out of road maintenance because the work on the grant would be considered maintenance on the Cobble Hill Road. So that's, even though that was planned to increase, we took that money for the grant out of road maintenance. But construction did go up in culverts.
Over to my left.
Hello, Andy Zuniga. I had a question about 1309. Can you provide more details what the sign, what that $2,500 goes to for the signs?
I guess people like signs. We use quite a few. The cost of just the post alone is a couple $100, plus the labor to put them back up again. We use signs like crazy. If you see a sign, please let us know. You know, it's so many sites. You know, even from the E911 point of view, we use those sites quite often. But I wanted to also talk about roads. It always comes up, why our roads are as bad as they are. At Christmas time, we had a tremendous storm that wiped out a number of our roads, not only dirt roads, but even our tide roads. We had 3 major storms this winter. They all did major damage. It seems like we're chasing after these storms. The storms are getting worse and worse. This road maintenance budget is a farce. You know, we're looking at under $200,000, and it's just not going to cover us. Our road construction budget, $320,000. You know how many feet that covers? It's not even a quarter of a mile. We're losing grounds. We're not raising a heck of a lot more each year, and we're not going to cover much ground as we're going. All of these are going up a little bit. Our culverts. We're buying 6-foot culverts. We lost that one on the Dunn's Corner Road. It's lucky we didn't lose the vehicle. It was a huge, huge hole. We lost it because we couldn't buy that culvert. The state couldn't buy metal culverts last summer. How much did that cost?
That was,
over $10,000 wasn't it? For one culvert. I don't know. I don't know what we can do for roads, but we're definitely not raising enough. And if we want to cut money on roads, I don't know where we're going to go.
Over on the left.
Hello, Vanessa McGee.
My question is, are these open bidded jobs, or where are these amount of money is coming from? Is it based on solely the road commissioner, or is it open to public and other businesses?
Well, it depends on the job. If it has to be done real quick. If you got a big hole in the road, what are you gonna do?
I own the property that's right there. I'm very aware of it.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for years. It's a Band-Aid. And now the culvert's there, but that's washed out again. So that's my question.
Yeah.
Who's going to be fixing the roads now? Are they bidding them out, or is it?
No. Lee gets to them as quickly as he can. If he tries to bid them out, if you can't do, he hires people. If he has to, that's right.
So they're not open bidding, that's not.
In the back, yes, sir.
Let me correct myself. He does go out for bid for tar, sand, culverts, stuff like that. He does go out for bid.
Yes, sir.
Tom Jacobs, I'm just asking about the winter sand stockpile, up 40,000. Probably inflation, but it's not
Cost of the salt.
Yes, sir.
Ken Griffin here. Is it possible, can we apply for federal money for any of this upkeep on our roads in Melbourne?
Yes, we applied for FEMA for this last storm. Whether we get it or not, we don't know. We did apply though.
Gentleman in the back.
Very skilling, you probably ain't gonna get the FEMA money. Kennebec County had to come up with over $1 million for them to get any money. If a road has washed out prior to this and it doesn't get covered again. So any road that's washed out, we got money for before, we don't get money for it again. So that looks that way. My, on the maintenance as far as the bushing, hogging and that, what roads are scheduled to get that done this year? I think we should concentrate on one road, not all of them, if we can, so that we're making progress on roads, and so we can see what's being done.
Further discussion? Yes, ma'am. Oh, go ahead.
I can answer his question.
You're on.
The Dunn Corner Road is, one we'd like to get done this year. Get the road, the brush cut back and the ditches put in. We still have culverts put in, we don't have them all. And I'm not sure yet if we can get them. At one point, I used a whole culvert account just to buy culverts. And that's almost all gone now. So, like I said, the culverts have gone up. So it's gonna cost a lot more to replace them.
Is there a question over on the left? Yes, Article 13, continuing discussion.
Fast again. It's my understanding that in regards to funds that might be available to have been applied for and that sort of thing, that there are also some avenues that have been brought to the select board that are being investigated to get some grant money, some significant grant money for road repairs. What's the status of that?
Okay, there's one called Northern State. Yeah, Northern Regional, that is upwards of $1 million. We're working on that one. That one won't come due until next February or March, but we're doing the paperwork on that now. I've talked with DEP. They do not require any permits, so that's out of the way. I will talk with DOT about that too. So that one is under discussion, and next select board meeting, we'll be talking about another avenue for grants. So, yeah, we've got 2 avenues for grants right now, and we'll be looking for one.
Further discussion on Article 13. Yes, ma'am.
Sherry Gilman. Sherry, can you tell
Can
me?
you wait for the mic?
Tell me what the current balance in the capital improvement road account is, please?
Good, and I don't have these things memorized, so. Capital roads, right now, we have $152,898. And that we're not finished, I know that we have at least one warrant that I just got last night, to pay, and I'm not sure what, anything left over in any other accounts, which doesn't look like it's gonna be a lot, gets rolled into the capital.
Okay, so 152 plus 50, and there is a stipulation, I believe, in order to use those funds. Capital improvement on any account must be approved by the select board and the road commissioner before any expenditures, correct? Okay, do we have any plans for, I know it's very important to build up this account, and we've been doing due diligence in doing so, but is there any plans for a capital improvement that falls under that category to use any of these funds during this coming year?
I would say that Dennis Corner Road would be the #1 spot. The Sadie End Road is the next, and I'd say the 3rd spot would be the section of the Bean Road.
Further discussion on Article 13. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Article 13, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Article 13 is approved. Before we move on to Article 14, I was told that the coffee is ready. And I don't know if anybody would like to take a break for a couple of minutes to go get a cup of coffee or do anything else. If a few people raise their hands, I'll request a motion for that. Anybody want to take a quick break? Is there a motion? If not, we'll keep on going. Article 14. Oh wait, was there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. If anyone wants some coffee, they can go get it.
Coffee is good.
You don't need a permission slip to go get coffee. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for recreation and community recommended, and then there's some numbers below that. The total recommended was 63,486.67. Is there a motion? I think there's going to be an amendment to this article, but we need to get the motion, the main motion on the floor before we can do an amendment. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded on Article 14 to approve it as written. Is there a proposed amendment?
There is a proposed amendment, thank you. The proposed amendment is to raise and appropriate a grand total here of $53,986.67. And then to appropriate an additional anticipated $9,500 from additional grants and support. To clarify that amendment, it won't all be coming from tax dollars in this original amount. Some will be from other support, so only some will be raised via taxes. That total would be $53,986.67.
So the amendment would raise from taxes $53,986.67 and then appropriate $63,486.67, of which $9,500 would be coming from grant.
Was that money all expended? And if so, if not, how much is left? And what is the money going to be used for?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of that?
Is there any money left from the monies that we raised last year
Microphone.
for 14 for the recreation and community? And if there's any left, how much? And what is the money going to be used for?
Those are special revenue funds, so that what happens is anything left does roll back to that. That's a law. So, and it's also voted on further. So the athletic, we expended $1,800, and that was for, left for athletics. That's why we're only putting in another $1,000. There is some work that needs to be done on the field, et cetera, and we have a new athletic director person. The beach, we did not raise any additional money because there's $5,298 left in that account. The community center is just asking the $8,800, which is basically the same as last year. Last year they asked for additional money for a generator. That's been taken care So they have $33,747 right now. There's still a couple more payments to go this year. But that's, they're using that to work on the foundation, which is the work down there right now. And then Dr. Shaw Library was where actually we had a misstatement of things because they require spending $53,000, but they're also getting money from Vienna and for grants. So that's the appropriating additional money. They have $40,000 left this year.
So what's the total amount that we have left in the?
What's the total amount that we have left in this account right now?
These are 3 separate accounts. And they have to be,
So why is it one article? It should be 3 separate articles, should it not?
well, all of the above, like the admin, those are all separate accounts, but they all will roll into admin for elections, et cetera. So, right, wrong, or indifference, that's how it's been. And we can talk about that for next year, separating them out on the warrant. So these 3 accounts total are 34 and 40, 70, about $90,000.
We're asking for an additional
We're asking for an additional 53,000, 63,000.
Correct, and
But
that's just on.
9,000 of that or so is going to be up grants, is what I'm understanding. So,
That, for the library and for the community center, that is strictly operational that we pay for. It's for the, electric, heating, et cetera. The community center is fundraising the additional money for capital expenditures, which is what has been rolling in there.
back here.
what I'm not understanding, I guess, is the operational stuff we just voted on in another article for the heat utilities for other places. So I guess I understand that maintenance costs have to be taken from somewhere, I get it. But if we have $53,000 left, we're asking for more money than we need to put back into these accounts. So last year you said you spent $1,800 on athletics. This year you're asking for another $1,000. And we have $5,000 in that account already. That means now we're gonna have $6,000 in there, and if we only spend $2,000 or $3,000, we're gonna have a budget surplus again. Where does that money go at the end of the year? Does that go into a general fund? Does it?
Special revenue accounts, and those are our accounts that make money too, like the community center does fundraising, the library gets grants, et cetera. So anything left over rolls back into that account for use in the next year. It doesn't go to the general fund. We have an obligation of the town to support the operational costs of our town buildings. We did not, these include the operational cost of the heating and propane. We did not vote on electricity and propane for the library, community center, anywhere else.
So, over on the left here. We're still voting on the amendment to Article 14.
Oh, thanks. So if I understand you correctly, are you saying that the town foots the bill for the heating and electricity for the Dr. Shaw? Okay. What happened to the Dr. Shaw fund that was designed to be part of the maintenance and upkeep of that building and improvements and so on?
It has been used for the
Dr. Shaw fund is it a money-bearing fund? Is it a fixed amount? Does it have a zero somewhere in the future? Is it a money-making trust?
It is the board of directors for the board for the library controls
Are they making any money?
it. Yes, yeah. We do have, we get copies of the statements and it is listed in the financial reports. But we don't, the town doesn't really control it, the board controls it.
Further discussion on the amendment to Article 14. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Alice Counts. It was my understanding that in talking with the library, that they wanted to, they did not want the increase, that they wanted to keep their funds the same as they had been last year.
Is that a question?
Yes, it was.
It is the same as last year.
It shows 53, 686, 67, and last year it was 43, 720.
Yeah, it was. If you look at the proposed budget, it says appropriate 43,720, and then it shows $4,500 appropriate from Vienna and contributions from grants, and that totals up to 53,220. So that's the way we wanted to show it on our warrant. Last year, we showed it as 43,720. I don't think that was the proper way to show it because we're actually spending 53,220.
So just to be clear, the amendment is to change the amounts to raise 53,986.67 and then to appropriate that plus 9,500 from grants and other revenues. Any further discussion on the amendment to Article 14? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's not the amount that, you said 53,220 and it's 53,686.67.
Okay, there was an additional, what happens is, the different departments submit their budget requests and the budget committee reviews it and puts everything together. The library budget came in with a salary increase, and we did pretty much across the board increase for everyone of 4%. So that's the difference between the requested amount that Bob was talking about and the 53,686 is the 2% difference in the salary.
Just to be clear, because I think I may have misheard you, it's 53,986.67 that's being proposed in the amendment, plus appropriating an additional 9,500, which brings the total under the amendment up to 63,486.67, but the appropriated amount would only be the raised amount would only be 53,986.67. Further discussion, we're still on the amendment.
Barry Stone. I heard one of my neighbors has passed and left the library $100,000, and I'm wondering why some of that money can't be used.
Does someone want to answer that question?
Usually when you get those type of funds, they're set into a trust account, so that way you're only spending the gains on the trust account, and you still have the $100,000 in the future. You're only spending the gains off that trust account.
Hearing none, seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
The amendment is approved. That takes us to the main motion as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor say aye on Article 14. Aye. Amended. Nay. All opposed say nay. Article 14 is approved as amended with raising 53,986.67 and appropriating that plus an additional 9,500. Article 15, see if the town will vote to appropriate all the snowmobile fees reimbursed from the state of Maine for the Mount Vernon Ridge Riders Snowmobile Club. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded on Article 15. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 15 is approved. Article 16, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for cemeteries. Recommended. Oh, there it is. $2,750. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
What is included on fast? What is included in this cemetery amount that is not included in the muni maintenance?
Okay, the lawnmower, maintenance, the blades, and stuff like that. Supplies for the stone repair. There's money for cutting a tree in the Bean Cemetery. This year we're cutting a tree in this Spring Hill Cemetery. I think that's about it. Cutting a tree is the major thing.
Further discussion on Article 16. Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 16 is approved. Article 17, see if the town will vote to appropriate the following sums from estimated revenues and the undesignated fund. And then there are 13 line items that are shown below. Is there a motion on Article 17? Moved and seconded on Article 17. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 17 is approved. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to accept and appropriate $5,000 from the Aging in Place Maine Health Access Foundation grant to be used for the Mount Vernon Health Officer. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. That's a vote. Article 18 is approved. Article 19, see if the town will authorize the select board to accept and expend funds from any federal, state, local, or private grant or revenue funds not listed in other articles. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Scott, I'm interested in what criteria are used by the select board to expand these funds.
Let's wait for the mic. I don't think people could hear that. Hold on.
I'm interested to know what are the criteria that the select board used to expend these funds.
If the fire department should have to get a small grant that would come in, these are small grants that would come in. We're not talking about like the ARP funds or something like that. These would be small funds that come in that would allow us to spend them.
Typically, the grants would be given for a particular purpose. So I'm guessing that the town would then have to use the funds for the purpose of the grant. So it might be difficult to say in advance what the criteria would be if they come in for particular purposes. I think the main criteria would be that, number one, they don't use tax revenue, and number two, that answers it. That was mostly a guess. Further discussion on Article 19. I'm seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 19 is approved. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to reimburse all town officials and employees for necessary travel at the rate of 46 cents per mile. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
What does that entail?
Let's wait for the microphone.
The question was.
Hey, how's it going? It's John from Arrow again, and I'm curious, who does that include?
Any town employee that has to go, like, the treasurer or the town clerk that has to go to the bank, anything like that. Even the code enforcement officer when he's traveling to sites.
So what about like the planning board and such?
We've never done that on a plan.
Not budgeted. Funds in the planning board is what we're trying. Definitely, if it's going to a meeting.
Can I ask you a question? Is typically travel isn't reimbursed on your house to your town office, but only once you're at the town office when you have to go and do things. Is that the way
That's correct.
the way the town works? It's probably people aren't reimbursed for mileage going back and forth to their house.
This is just, when it's required of the job, like the ACO or the code enforcement officer or the tax collector who does take the deposits to pay.
Yes, sir.
Those people have to go to site plan reviews, so, I mean, could you say that again?
The people in the planning board have to go to site plan reviews, so they should be falling under the town. They are representatives of the town and they are doing town business.
Well, reading this article, it does say all town officials and employees. Further discussion on Article 20. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All opposed, say nay. Just trying to wake you up. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, Article 20. 21, to see if the town will authorize the town clerk or deputies to charge a state rate of $25 for the receipt of checks with insufficient funds.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 21 is approved. Article 22, to see if the town will authorize the select board to expend the revenues of special revenue funds. Moved and seconded. Wait, I didn't hear a second. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Isn't
Wait for the
Article,
microphone.
isn't Article 22 the same as Article 19?
No.
19 is the grants, and 22 special revenues. That would be,
Community center fundraising.
yeah. Like community center fundraisers, fire department fundraisers, stuff like that.
Further discussion on Article 22. Call for vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 22 is approved. 23, to see if the town will authorize the select board to expend the income earned by the cemetery trust funds, the Noah and Nellie Clough Trust Fund, Dr. Gilman Trust Fund, Dr. Shaw Memorial Library Trust Fund, and the Robert George Weiss Memorial Fund for the purposes specified for each trust fund. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Town budgeted expenditure unless the payments are required by law, approved by voters at a special town meeting, or are the result of a natural disaster, excess revenues are not considered part of the budgeted expenditures voted on at a town meeting. Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 24 is approved. Article 25, to see if the town will authorize the select board to issue orders for the closing of roads to winter maintenance. Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 25 is approved. Article 26, to see if the town will vote to make property taxes payable 1/2 on September 28th, 2023, and 1/2 on March 30th, 2024, and that interest be charged on overdue taxes at the rate of 9% or the maximum allowed by state law if that is greater per annum after those dates. Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 26 is approved. Article 27, to see if the town will adopt the reformatted, updated, and corrected land use ordinance as recommended by the Ordinance Review Committee. Second. Any discussion? Yes.
Paul Crockett. I just want to thank Sue and her whole team. This is a project that's been underway for ever. And they finally got it done. So thank you. Oh, and I support this.
Joe's coming for you, Sue.
I'm Susan Vernon, and I've been the chair of the Ordinance Review Committee for a while. I'd like to recognize and thank you, Paul, for your kind words. I'd like to recognize the members of our committee, Quimby Robinson, who's been secretary forever, Fred Weber, Michelle Puna, Heather Roberts, who had a major part in this reformatting, updating, and correcting project, Ron LaRue, and Kelly DeHaven, who's our newest member. So we did have a public hearing on this on April 19th. The reformatted, updated, corrected ordinance has been on the town website since, I believe, beginning of May, shortly after the public hearing. We did advertise. We didn't really get much comment on the reformatting at the public hearing. I don't think this is controversial. Basically, what we did is we reformatted it so it is hopefully much easier to read and use. The margins are consistent, the numbering is consistent. We've had different people updating the corrections and amendments that we've made over the years. And because of many hands and many different types of formatting programs, it was kind of a mess and hard to use and hard to follow. So I think people will find this a lot easier. We did make some corrections. We had some errors. We had some sites that were incorrect and needed to be updated. We do have an index now. There's a table of contents. If you use it online, you can click on the citations and it will take you to other parts of the ordinance. So it's a lot more user-friendly. There's not really anything substantive in this article. We did, in the past year, also work on 2 other matters. One is the next article. It's a minor revision relating to campgrounds. And then the other big piece of our work this last year was on LD 2003. That is not here today, primarily because the legislature just extended the deadline for compliance from July 1st this year to July 1st next year, and the governor signed the legislation yesterday. So, very kindly. Happy to answer questions.
Can you talk about the campground lawyer right there?
Would that be okay, Mr. Moderator?
The campground question is the next article.
Yes.
So I would suggest that you act first on the
Okay,
ordinance.
fair enough.
Any further discussion on the Article 27, which is the reformatted, updated, and corrected land use ordinance. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Article 27 is approved. Article as recommended by the ordinance review. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Okay, on the campgrounds, this issue came to our committee, at the request of the select board. We had members of the planning board come to the committee, and it did relate us to a proposal that was under consideration at the time and has since, I think, been withdrawn. And it's not before the planning board at this time, but the issue was that in our ordinance, in the shoreline zone, what's called the limited residential shoreline zone, there's a table in our ordinance that is an easy place to go when you're trying to figure out whether or not something is authorized or not authorized. So in the limited residential zone, in the table, it listed commercial as being not allowed. But for campgrounds, it was allowed. So the question was, with this particular proposal, whether it was allowed or not and whether it was a campground. So the table was inconsistent or confusing as to whether or not a campground would be allowed, because a campground could be viewed as a commercial use. Commercial uses were not allowed, but campgrounds were under the table. So we went back and looked at the state shoreline zoning table, which is what our table is based on, and there is a footnote in that table that clarifies the issue and says if a campground is allowed in a particular zone, it's allowed notwithstanding that it might be commercial and not allowed. So what this amendment does is it adopts that footnote to clarify that issue. The other part of this relates to summer camps, which is slightly different than campgrounds, and it also relates to summer camps in our rural district. In our rural district, a commercial use has limitations in terms of the overall size of the development. It can't be more than 1,600 square feet, or by special use exception, it can be up to 3,200 square feet. And when we looked at this whole campground issue, we were looking at the overall practices of the town in terms of development in this type of use. And so what this amendment does is it also says for summer camps that are grandfathered, in other words, they've been around for many years. So when I say summer camps, I'm talking about not the camp that you go to on vacation, but the camps where kids go. They are not subject to the 1,600 square foot limitation in our rural zone. So there are two aspects of this amendment.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Article 28 is approved. Article 29. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sum for local agreement for the management of Belgrade area dam. Recommended amount $10,415. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Alice counts. Why is the membership almost tripled?
Last year, or in past years, it was about 3,000. This year, they're asking for 7,000 more because the dam in the Belgrade Center is about to fail. And needs immediate attention. So the 7,000 would be the, Mount Vernon's share of that, and that share is based on the, this is all based on the areas that we have. So say Belgrade has the most lakes in essence, so they would have to pay the most. Next year, our fee will go back down to 3,000.
Further discussion, yes, ma'am. Wait for the mic. Giving the mic runner a workout.
Hi, this is Fast. I understand that there's a gentleman here who can represent why we might need that money for that dam, as we're interdependent on the dam flows as they go through our communities. And I think he can explain why we might need to give more money towards this project this year.
Point of order. Not a resident, he's not respected.
Is the proposed speaker a town resident?
No, I'm not, I'm Dick Green, rural resident, chairman of the Dam Committee.
Well, I would entertain a motion to allow him to speak.
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it.
Yeah, to answer your question, Mount Vernon is one of the 5 towns in the interlocal dams agreement. We've got Oakland, Rome, Belgrade, Sydney, and Mount Vernon. In each town is assessed a percentage. Belgrade's 48%, Rome is 23%, Oakland 14%, Sydney 8%, and Mount Vernon 7% of the shoreline zoning. So we got kind of caught short this past late summer when the concrete patches that have been there for 27 years just started deteriorating. So we had Knowles Engineering out, and they went down with a step ladder and said, let me show you something. They hit a patch of good concrete and it sounded metallic. Then we hit a patch of deteriorating and cracking that all fell off. And it sounded like hitting a 2x4, a wet 2x4. So it was like, you've got to be kidding me. We're not concrete experts. And there are apparently not a lot of DOT concrete experts either. It's evidenced by this Castle Island, because we're all volunteers. We're thinking, well, we should have seen this coming. Well, with that culvert that was replaced on Castle Island Road, they didn't see it coming either. So make a long story short, last summer, the concrete didn't look that bad. We had Knowles Engineering out late September, and then in December, we lost our staff gauges, 8-foot long gauge to measure the water level, fell off. The whole thing is just falling apart. So I went to Army Corps of Engineers. They said, have a nice day. This is a private dam, which it's not, it's a municipal dam. Went to Kennebec Valley Emergency Management. They said, you should have been here last year when we had the opera funds of making our decisions. Went to FEMA, went to Jerry Golden's office, went down every rabbit hole to no avail. So we're looking at least 100,000 to fix it, and then the rates will be going back down. But this is an emergency. So, did that answer your question?
Further discussion on Article 29.
Hypothetically, the dam washes out, what happens?
That's a good question. Actually, CMP, when they divested themselves of these 3 dams, had a public meeting back in '75, and they said that if the dams were to wash out, or we said, let's just get rid of them and allow the alewives to come up and all that, right? Great Pond would drop 8 feet, Long Pond would drop 4 feet, Salmon McGraw would drop 3 feet. So if we think we have water quality issues now, that's nothing.
So it's not going to be a catastrophic failure. Each gate is 2.5 tons. And what we fear, and will happen, is that the gate will get stuck in the up position or down position, most likely up, because that's when the weight is on the hinges, and it's gonna get stuck, and that means inoperable. If we have another flood like we had a month ago, Long Pond, even with the gates wide open, the spillway wide open, came up 18 inches. If we didn't have that damn gate working, it'd be massive flooding. So, got a caught between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, any further discussion on Article 29?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, up in the front. Make you run around it so fast.
This is a question of the gentleman that spoke. My recollection of the dam system is the last dam is in Mount Vernon, right?
Correct.
And if those two dams, at least the dam between Great Pond and Long Pond went out, would that take out our dam too?
No,
It just overrun it, huh?
right. You need to control all the water. In other words, knowing we had the rain coming in last night, which was an inch of rain, Long Pond came up 3 inches last night.
For every inch of rain, Long Pond comes up 3 inches. Due to the steep watershed, steep hillsides. So we have to make room up above for all of this water. And then they get to deal with it and open at that dam.
Over here. And then after that, will someone over here speak, just to keep them active?
My question is back to the proposal. If there is any money left in ARPA, could that not be used to help cover the cost instead of taking this out of tax dollars? It is infrastructure.
We tried that with ARPA.
Wait for the microphone.
Yeah, I went regarding the ARPA funds, I went before the Kennebec County Commissioners last October. And they said, we feel for you guys, but you should have been here last year when we appropriated all the funds. And I said, there's nothing more infrastructure related than a dam. And they said, sorry, and this is including Jabbar, who is our representative. So sorry, that's all we can do.
So now you have to run over here. First of the lady in the back.
Alice counts. It was my understanding there might be a couple of thousand left in our current ARPA fund, and I think that's what he was asking, if we could use that towards this.
Just getting the news from our treasurer here. So since we voted up to certain amounts on the ARPA funds so far, we don't have a clear amount of how much is left. So it'd be hard to use those to pay for this. We wouldn't have any solid numbers to play with.
So did the up to number at the top use up all the funds? Yes, sir.
That's my asking. So basically, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask for an amendment to this article to take the remaining ARPA funds that we may have left and use towards this instead of appropriating this whole amount of $10,415.
So is that in the form of an amendment? Question I'm going to ask back to the person making the amendment is if they won't know how much they have left until after the taxes have to be committed, how will they know how to make the reduction that you're requesting?
They've got figures in front of them that tell them how much money we've actually spent. They're asking for $31,000, which we've just passed for, roadside bush removal and that kind of thing. They have to know how much dollars we have left in ARPA. Tell us how much that money is, how much is left in the account, and we'll use that money for.
But I think they said that we had already voted to appropriate up to 39,000, and that was all that was left in the ARPA account.
No, they told us there was gonna be money left.
Well, that's if they don't expend all the 39, then there will be money left. But they won't know that until you get to the end of the year and determine how much has been spent under that prior article. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't see any more than 31,000, maybe another 1,000.
Like
Cut it
phone.
as close as we could.
So is there a second to the amendment?
So the proper answer that we should have gotten back when we asked the question, how much money is going to be left after we spend this 31,000, is we don't have any money left. Instead, we have a few thousand.
I think the article was to expend up to 39, so they may not expend the whole amount. If they don't, there'll be some left. If they do, there won't be. So it's been moved to reduce this amount by whatever funds are left in the ARPA account, but I don't know how that's gonna work, because they have to do the taxes before they know what's left. So, but you've offered the amendment. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The amendment is defeated. Any further discussion on the main motion on Article 29? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 29, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Article 29 is approved. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sum for the Seven Lakes Alliance boat inspection program and erosion control work. OLF 7.
Looks like a typo.
Typo. Seven Lakes Youth Conservation Corps by petition, recommended $2,000. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Wait for the mic.
David Ford again, and I do support the Seven Lakes Alliance. They do a lot of great work, but I wonder if there's anybody here who represents them that can say how many volunteers actually vote inspection over there rather than paid employees. For example, the Echo Lake Association uses only volunteers and covers the entire summer, right up through mid-September, with just volunteers to do boat inspections, so at no cost. Also, I think the policy on Echo Lake is that if Youth Conservation Corps provides erosion control work on private property, the owner pays for that. There's no cost involved in that. So I don't know if there's anybody here who can answer those questions or issues or not.
Yes, sir, right behind you.
Hi, I'm Charlie Dager. I live in town, and I'm also an employee of Seven Lakes Associate or Seven Lakes Alliance. We do erosion control work and invasive plant, milfoil prevention work throughout the Belgrade Lakes. Long Pond is part of the Belgrade Lakes chain, and so this would be to help fund work on that lake in particular, and also Messalonsky to a certain extent. They're also in the watershed and also part of Mount Vernon. So so to your question about spending money, the Youth Conservation Corps, as an example, spends $100,000 a year doing erosion control projects on properties in the watershed. We get most of that money from the homeowner. We get some money from the towns, a lot of money from the lake associations, But the biggest proportion, over 50%, is the homeowner doing it. We do this to incentivize fixing problems on the lake because of the erosion problems getting into the lake. And North Pond's a good example. If it gets out of control, it can start, having algae blooms every summer, and that's expensive. So this is prevention work as well as fixing problems that are already there. And then the invasive plants, to your question about paid employees, we do have some volunteers. Probably about 10% of all of the inspections are done by volunteers throughout the watershed. Probably 90% is funded again by donations, by town contributions, and by Lake Association funding. So we do pay most of our employees, and most of them are getting just over minimum wage. So we cut it pretty close to the bone.
Further discussion of Article 30. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Article 31, to see if the town will authorize the use of revenues from the Ordinance Review Committee, the Planning Board, Code Enforcement, Newsletter, and the Appeals Court to help offset the expenditures of such departments. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Article 31 is approved. Article 32, to see if the town will authorize the select board to sell and convey advertised property belonging to the town by reason of matured tax liens, by sealed and competitive bids to be open and public, so on, so on, and so on. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
John from Ray Logan, and I'm just curious how it was prior to now.
I think the answer is probably this article is in the warrant every year. I don't know. In the back.
Now let's count. How many matured tax liens do we have, and when do they go on sale?
How many mature tax liens do you have and when do they go on sale?
Right now, we have approximately less than a dozen, and I have contracts I've been working with the owners to not have to foreclose on them.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Mary Skilling, I'd like to make an amendment that we change that all properties be listed on the local town website besides newspaper. A lot of people don't get newspapers. So townspeople should know that they've got property on set, that's going up. So I think it should be notified on the town website.
Well, let me just read the article. So would your amendment be the select board is to give not less than 10 days notice of such sales in a local newspaper and the town website?
Yeah.
With the description of the properties to be sold. So the proposed amendment is to add the words "and on the town website" after the word newspaper.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The amendment is approved. As a point of information, people just might be interested to know this. Maine has always had the law that if the town takes your property for $3 and then they sell it, they get to keep the extra money. The United States Supreme Court just issued a decision about a month ago saying that's inappropriate, and so that is probably no longer the law of Maine. If they sell your property and make extra money, they'll have to give it back to you after they collect the taxes. So the
to my knowledge, I don't remember ever selling a property. We work real closely with these people to make payment schedules and stuff like that. So we really work with these people to keep them with their houses. And we don't, I selling a piece of property. So this is a good idea to put it in the website, but I don't foresee anybody losing their houses. We really work with them.
So,
Just one point, I do think that there were a couple properties sold in the past, but over 20 years ago.
so the current motion is the main motion as amended by adding the words "and on the website." Is there further discussion of Article 32? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Article 32 is approved. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to carry over fire rescue, transfer stations, cemeteries, public access, TV, beach and road accounts, unspent balances as department capital accounts, which may only be used by approval of the select board, stating purpose in published agenda and minutes. Unspent balances in capital funds, specified special revenue accounts, library, community center, aging in place, beach and athletic, and the general fund contingency will be carried over to the next year for that same amount. Any other non-capital unspent balance accounts will lapse to general fund. My Aunt Violet, who is a grammarian, is rolling over in her grave. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded on Article 33. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Article 33 is approved. 34, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the following sums for these 5 community service nonprofit organizations. As listed, 30 Mile River Watershed Association, $3,000, Sexual Assault Crisis and Support, $574, Family Violence Project, $2,000, Hospice Volunteers, $1,000, Senior Spectrum, $1,000. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Way in the back. More in the front.
David Fuller again, just a point of clarification, there's no organization called Senior Spectrum, the name is Spectrum Generations. I don't know if we can make that change here. If we can't, they cashed the check last year with Senior Spectrum, so I can do it again this year. The name is Spectrum Generations.
I heard a motion on the floor to amend the name from Senior Spectrum to Spectrum Generation. Plural or singular? Plural. Spectrum Generations. That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. That's approved. Any discussion on the main motion as amended in the back?
Oh, sorry, not as amended.
What?
Not as amended, just as it is, so we can finish the amendment.
I can't hear.
We're good.
My name is Jane Rogers. I am a member of the 30 Mile River Association Board. And first, I wanted to thank the town for their support in the past and ask again for your support this year. 30 Mile has been around for a long time and is pretty much like Seven Lakes, taking care of the watershed that impacts our town. So it's Minnehaha Lake, Flying Pond, Echo Lake, Parker Pond, and we take care of boat inspections there. We did 784 inspections in all the lakes last summer. We also have volunteers to do water quality on all of our lakes so that we can catch any issues with water temperature or invasive plants. We have an invasive plant control volunteers. Our organization is all nonprofit, strictly funded by donations and grants. So this is one of our donations that we count on. Also, 30 Mile is going to be part of our community. We were able to buy the building on CD Corner Road that's been abandoned for a while. We found the owner was a gentleman down near Portland. He had started construction on that and wasn't able to complete it. Through donations and grants, we were able to buy that building, and we'll be putting offices and meeting rooms and fixing up the building so that we can use it for our office. I think that will be a great addition to the downtown area, which is being revitalized with everything else that's going on down there. So again, I hope you will support the 30-mile request. Thanks.
So, any further discussion on the Article 34 as amended? Ms. Smith?
Going fast. Where, I'm curious, are the inspections being done on Parker Pond?
What about Parker Pond?
Where are those inspections being done on Parker Pond?
I could find out, but I don't know offhand. Usually it's at the entrance to the lake, the boat ramps.
In the middle here, wait. Use the mic, please.
It's being done at the boat launch on Tower Road. That's the only public boat launch on it.
Further discussion on Article 34? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. 34 is approved. Article 35, to see if the town will vote to increase the property tax limit of established for the town of Mount Vernon by state law in the event the municipal budget approved under the preceding articles will result in a tax commitment that is greater than the property tax levy limit. Is there a motion on the main motion? I have to get it on the floor before we can have an amendment. Second. Moved and seconded on the article with no number in it. Is there any discussion? Okay, and what is the amendment?
The amendment is to insert the amendment is to insert levy limit of $152,798.
Second.
152,798 is the total levy limit for the whole town?
That's the increase. Increase.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but that's not what this article says.
No, I'm sorry, you're right.
We almost called down the state taxes since.
I'm sorry, I misread that. So, to increase the levy limit to,
No, what is the levy limit? That's
the current levy limit.
for 2023.
972,201.
Okay, is that offered as an amendment to fill in the blank?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded to amend Article 35 to fill in the blank with the amount of $972,201 as the current property tax levy limit as calculated under what is called LD1. Is there a second to that amendment? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes,
I'm not so sure that's right.
See if the town will vote to increase the property tax levy limit of. So are we sure that that means what it would be without going over versus what it would be if we go over?
No, that shows what it would be. That is the levy limit right now. We're going to go over that.
So
we wouldn't be voting on this if we weren't going over. I know there's another article. Is it going to resolve itself in the next article?
Yes.
Well, I think not exactly. Under the law, if you're gonna go above the levy limit, you have to vote to go above the levy limit. So what this article is doing is authorizing you to go above the levy limit if the total amount approved under the preceding articles exceeds the existing levy limit. So if you vote yes on this article, then you're voting to allow the budget that you've already approved to go forward, even though it apparently exceeds the levy limit by $158,798. So the correct amount to have in this article is the current levy limit, which I think didn't we just approve the amendment? So we've approved the amendment, that's the correct number. Now the issue is, do you want to allow the town budget that you've already approved to exceed, even though it exceeds that number? Yes, ma'am.
Alice counts. It says, vote to increase the property tax levy limit. Oh, I see.
It's I have to spell it out. Sorry.
I think the word, actually, if I were writing this, I would have put in the word exceed rather than increase. Because that's what you're really voting on, is you're voting to exceed the property tax levy limit. And so I would actually entertain an amendment to change the word to exceed.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded on the amendment. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The amendment is approved. So now we're back to the main motion, which is if the town budget you've already approved exceeds the property tax levy limit, which apparently it does, do you vote to allow that to happen? And under state law, you have to vote on this by written ballot. So you have to vote yes or no by written ballot. Yes, sir.
Scott Small, I had a question on what, if somebody could define the levy limit for me?
Yeah, I can
Because the prior year property taxes were over 4 million.
The levy limit is based only on the municipal portion.
Yeah, the levy limit doesn't include any school expenditures or any county taxes or any of those expenditures. And there's, I mean, going back to 15 years to LD1, maybe. The state tax assessor calculates the average personal income growth in the state over the last 10-year period. And I think that was about 4-point-something% for 2023. Then you look at the increase in the state valuation of your town, and then there's a formula that plugs in the personal income growth factor established by the state tax assessor and the rate of increase in your valuation, and you get a percentage, and you apply that percentage to the prior year's taxes, and that tells you the levy limit. And it was an effort to try to slow the growth by the legislature, to try to slow the growth of municipal taxes, because the legislature was trying to slow the growth of school expenditures. And they decided to look at both sides. And then it says that you can only increase the levy limit for certain things like natural disasters and loss of state revenue and some other things. And then in subparagraph 6, if I recall, it says that you can increase the levy limit, you can exceed the levy limit for any other reason if the town votes to do so by a written ballot at the town meeting. So that's where we are now, is that the town has calculated the levy limit, the town budget that you just approved exceeds it. So you need to vote by a written ballot to allow the budget to go through even though it exceeds the levy limit. Or section 7 of the statute says that the state tax assessor will come and get it. It says this levy limit may be enforced by the state tax assessor, and under any other penalty provided by the legislature, but the legislature hasn't provided any. So essentially, if you don't approve this, the state tax assessor can challenge the validity of your budget.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jeff Herman on Bean Road. It is a very technical analysis to create the levy limit. And, it's no fun doing that. I think the most important thing to remember, what it does, it says, do you approve, do you approve of what you just did? Or do you not approve of what you just did? We just went over 30 some odd articles, we made decisions. This is sort of second guessing now, one opportunity to second guess those decisions. And say, yeah, we made all those decisions, but we shouldn't have. So if that's your point of view, you want to vote no. If your point of view is that the decisions that we just made should be supported, then you want to vote yes.
He just said in 2 sentences what I tried to say. Over there on the.
I was gonna say more or less what you said, but I mean, I think another way of looking at it is, or explaining it, I think, is, are we approving a tax increase to pay for all the spending increases we just said?
That's not completely accurate. It's, are you approving a tax rate that exceeds this number that is calculated using this state formula? So what you're saying is embedded in it, but it's a specific vote to allow the town to exceed this limit.
I get the technicalities, but I think it's important enough for you to get along with it.
So any further discussion on Article 35?
Yeah, call vote. What this means is if you vote no, then we can go through this whole thing again and find out if these people are correct. So that's it.
Okay, further discussion on Article 35. Yes?
Or fast. Will this impact our taxes and to what degree?
I think the question is, what is the projected tax rate increase under this budget?
This figure right here, 152,000, would be about $250,000, but if you look at the increase from the school, you're probably looking at over $1 million, which we had really done as much calculation.
I'm sorry, just 1 second, because the calculation that goes into the commitment that determines your property taxes, this is only a piece of it. You're authorizing the expenditures, but the other calculations that go into it is relooking at what we expect to get subsidies basically from the state, municipal revenue sharing, et cetera, and that changes as the year goes on. and also the actual final valuations of the assessor, and then how much we want to eat up the overlay. The surplus or whatever you want to call it, the uncommitted fund balance. So there's a lot more that's not, this isn't the final thing, there's always more calculations after this.
What is the end mill rate? What are we gonna end up with if we vote for everything on this? If we say yes right now, what is going to be our mill rate?
It's hard to say, the mill rate's gonna be, driven by the school more than the city.
Now, you set it to 1 mil, so that brings us over 20 and a quarter.
If you keep this tax levy, below, if we don't have to vote on this tax levy, your mill rate is still gonna go up.
So what is our mill rate gonna be? What is it currently?
We can't say that yet, because we haven't got it.
What is it for 2022?
18.5, so
So
this
this
is
is gonna
probably,
take us almost 20.
well, 19.5, yeah. Yes, the school.
That's okay. Over in the far side.
Motion to suspend debate and call the question.
The motion has been made to call the question, under the main moderator's manual, that motion is basically a motion to shut off debate. That motion requires a 2/3 vote of the meeting. Has the motion been seconded? And it's non-debatable. It's moved and seconded to shut off debate. All in favor of shutting off debate, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That passed. I'm starting to lose it up here. Okay, well, that means we voted to close off debate, and it has to be, this article has to be voted on by a written ballot. I'm new to this gig, so I don't know how you do that, but if you all have yes and no cards, you can pick them up over here. Everybody should vote yes and no, and then the ballot clerks will have to have
Stay on, I put it all the way over to this. It says remember, I can't see it. Yeah. And it's staying on. So I don't know why. I didn't like it. Obviously, I didn't like the. Yeah, I don't get it. I remember messing with it. I usually watch that ball and it was fun.
Turning your arm hard.
Is there anybody that hasn't voted yet? If you have not voted, please turn your card.
Well, you do this. Well, for you, we do this. All right, let's go. We can go. This one here. I don't see the difference between those two articles. I think they could have been combined in one article. Back off on some of the calls and stuff. So actually, the only reason I gave them a year's notice at meeting last May. I knew that they didn't want we were in so much better shape a year on than we were last year. You know, if we got there's two of our new guys, Jason, Justin Legender, and Tom over there, new members. We're up to pre-pandemic level. You can still use it. I'm not saying that. Yeah, that's all right. I'm good. Every time I'm doing something and I see a fire truck, that's why I'm not on it. Because just, you know, break away.
Rescue gets majority of the calls.
What's that?
I say rescue goes on the majority of the calls.
Right.
Still, there's a lot to do now.
There is.
We have to do so much training and so much, you know, we have to do truck checks once a month. We were a full-time department. We do it weekly. We have 20 members that do that weekly. Who's tipping?
I don't really know it.
He's really stepping up.
He's not in town. He works for
Yes, 65, no, 13. So Article 35 is approved as amended. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to increase the property tax levy limit only in the circumstance and only to the extent that projected state of Maine revenues for fiscal year 2023-24, including but not limited to municipal revenue sharing, blah, blah, blah. This is all the language from the law. So you voted to allow the budget to exceed it, but you're not going to increase the levy limit for these other reasons if you vote in favor of this article. Is there a motion?
I move we pass over that article. This is the second levy limit article.
It's a second levy limit article.
We passed it over for the last 20 years.
Yeah. And why do you pass it over instead
You
of?
don't need it, it's duplicative. It's under a unique set of circumstances where an unnamed governor was removing revenue sharing in extraordinary levels and things were very uncertain.
Okay, well, I normally don't allow a motion to pass over because it's the same thing as voting no. But in this case, since it's Jeff Herman. So there's a motion to pass over this article, which is the same thing as indefinite postponement, which is the same thing as voting no before you vote. So if you're in favor, well, the other reason I don't do this is because if you vote yes, you're voting no on the article. But all of that said, if you don't want to take any action on this article, vote yes. If you want to act on this article, vote no. All in favor of the article, all in favor of the motion to kill the article, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, you've killed the article and passed it over. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to appropriate up to $51,000 from the town's unfunded balance account, $30,000 for the fire station boiler, and $21,000 for the town's backup antenna. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. It's a vote. Article 38. I see an amendment to amend this article to stay for another hour. Article 38, to see if the town will vote to adjourn the town meeting. Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say, any discussion? Aye. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. We're adjourned. All right.